Thank you for joining us for ACRP TV, our spotlight on Clinical Trials Day, which is always a cool time in this industry to spotlight the clinical trial professionals and this important industry. I think we hear this phrase maybe overused. I'm about to overuse it myself, but now more than ever with COVID-19, Clinical Trials Day has sort of a special poignancy maybe, and we have a really good guest with us today. Very honored, a guy I've known for a while. He's been a great source and help for us at ACRP on so many occasions. Craig Lipset, who is, you're just the master clinical trial innovator and man who needs no introduction, but officially we're going with managing partner, Clinical Innovation Partners. Is that right, Craig? Is that good?
That is right. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, all right. I appreciate you doing this. All right, let's jump in. So May 20th, just coming up, is Clinical Trials Day. And as I said, as you well know, we're in the middle of some crazy times here. So right now, what does Clinical Trials Day mean to you, particularly with the backdrop we've got right now?
Look, I think to me, Clinical Trials Day means two things. First, it's a day that we can all take pride in the work that we do. For all of us that are clinical trials professionals in one way or another, whatever aspect of the clinical trial space we work in, it is a day that we can at least pause, even if just for a moment, and take pride that we're doing a great service. But it's also usually a great opportunity to increase awareness. 2020 is a very unusual year for all of us in so many ways. But one byproduct that we're seeing is an unprecedented level of awareness of the existence of clinical research. All of our friends and neighbors are actively watching the news each night, looking at and retweeting and sharing updates on clinical trial progress. People seem to start to understand now the difference between an interventional trial and an observational study in phase 1 versus phase 3. It's an exciting time for us to amplify that awareness and to make sure that people know about the community that's driving clinical trials and the role of patients as the catalyst for making them happen.
Now, so that's a little bit about the landscape or snapshot of what's going on today, but let me put you on the spot a little bit and ask you, do you think, and this could be from a technology standpoint, from a workforce standpoint, there's so many elements here, COVID has changed the way we're conducting clinical trials right now, but someday this will dissipate and or hopefully go away completely. But do you think it's changed clinical trials forever in some ways?
I do think it has changed clinical trials. For one thing, the near-term impact that was on people's minds when this all first started to strike a couple of months ago. I think a lot of people were thinking this is a 3-month exercise. Can I just minimize missed doses and minimize missing data for 3 months? And when we're thinking about a 3-month period, we're thinking about protocol deviations and SOP waivers. But now we realize that for our patients with chronic diseases, this is not going to change until there's a vaccine. And we know that's still going to be some time away. And so these different changes that we've implemented, now we're seeing organizations committing to them because new studies can't start in this environment without having some of these elements either incorporated up front or as our safety net in case there's another outbreak that happens in different geographies around the world. I think for all of us, just as people in 2020, we're all getting accustomed to a hybrid world, a world where in some cases we want to go on site for an interaction, and in other cases we've seen that we can stay home and in some cases have a pretty good interaction, maybe in education, maybe in grocery shopping, maybe with our doctors in our lives. I'm not saying that at home is as good in every case, but I think we're all seeing that there are places where at home can work for our lives and can give us some flexibility. And none of us necessarily want to give that back. And I think that the patients who participate in clinical research will have that same expectation going forward.
Absolutely. All right, let me ask you a tougher question. Year from now, you and I are talking, we're doing this video, or maybe in person, maybe things are better. But Clinical Trials Day 2021, what kind of economic landscape, what do you think it's going to look like? What's this industry going to look like next year this time?
It is clearly a challenging economic time for everyone in our society right now,
Mm.
for small businesses, including investigator sites, for outpatient clinical settings. This is hard. This is hard for patients in terms of employment. It's hard for CROs and service providers with studies delayed, with enrollment delayed. There's certainly consequences to this. I have some degree of optimism because we're not seeing significant layoffs in pharma R&D organizations that would suggest that the delayed portfolio is being canceled.
Mhm.
Because those colleagues are still there and they're still working and planning on those studies, I believe that this is an impact of a delay rather than a wholesale cancellation or termination of significant numbers of studies. And so, unfortunately, it becomes a bit of a waiting game, right? For investigator sites that are small businesses or otherwise, this is a survive with some of the relief packages that are being made available by the federal government. For CROs, the same. It's a period of challenge of waiting. I do believe that the new studies that start need to be more resilient studies. They need to be studies that will accommodate flexibility in the event of an outbreak. There's no way to develop a risk mitigation strategy for a study in 2020 without incorporating those elements. So I do believe that when we are on the other side, when we're talking about our clinical trials day in 2021, the study portfolio will be active again. There will be a vibrant portfolio. And I am optimistic that all those studies that were delayed were able to work their way back in. I want that for the research ecosystem. I want that for the patients who will be waiting for those medicines to get to the other side and to reach the market a few years from now. So I am optimistic that we will see a resumption a year from now. We will be back on track with activity. I do feel that monitoring in many cases will look different. The expectation of 100% SDV, the way the industry has relied upon it for years, is going to look different a year from now. There's still a role for monitors. There's still a vital role for sites and all of our different stakeholders. We need them to be up and running, to be resourced, for employees to be there and buzzing again. So that's kind of what I'm looking towards when I think about Clinical Trials Day in 2021.
Fantastic. I like the way you think. That sounds pretty good to me. Hey, before I let you go, I want to thank you for your sign there in the back, the ACRP. And I think people can read that, but read that for us just in case. It says, we are, it's
here when the world needs us.
So true. All right. Thank you so much. We've been talking with Craig Lipset, who is just a clinical trial innovator and thought leader extraordinaire here, and officially the managing partner at Clinical Innovation Partners. Craig, I want to thank you so much for joining us on ACRP TV Spotlight today on Clinical Trials Today. Thank you so much for your input and all your help.
Thank you, and thank you, ACRP.